Gonna go over this a little bit, kind of walk through the comments and just kind of talk about it. So it says couldn't get a girlfriend. He was almost 22. Uh, oh, this is kind of cut off here. There we go. My little brother killed himself because he couldn't get a girlfriend. I noticed something seemed off about 2 months ago and asked him what was going on. It was just at us at the house, and he's usually a pretty stoic guy. Hell, he loves to laugh and joke around. I really did not expect him to break down crying, and that's kind of a marker a lot of times of men who are holding a lot underneath the surface, because men have to just deal with shit. We can't, we really can't show emotion. If we show emotion, we're considered weak. Um, you have to figure out a way to, you know, deal with it on your own, or to channel it into something else. Some men figure out how to channel it. I mean, of course, you could just go to therapy, right? That would be a good option. Um, but men have emotions. Men are emotional, and we need to deal with our emotions. And we just get beat down, by life, and we get beat down by the concept that, you know, men shouldn't, cry, or men shouldn't feel sad, or you're weak, or all that crap. And she uses this word stoic here. She says he's usually pretty stoic. Well, that's on purpose. Stoicism is very popular today. And there's some decent advice in Stoicism as a philosophy. There is some decent advice there, just like there's decent advice, some decent advice in self-improvement. However, if your answer to everything is just to be stoic and, like, roll with the punches, don't cry about it, don't whine, it's a waste of time, like, you're building up for yourself problems in the future. So it sounds like this guy has a combination of that. So on the one hand, he's stoic, meaning he's, insular, he doesn't emote, he doesn't deal with things on the outside. On the other hand, she says he jokes around a lot. Well, joking sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it can be a sign of pain. When guys joke around a lot, a lot of times underneath the surface, they're in pain. And that's how you deal with pain, is you joke and you get over it. And there's some truth there that laughing and comedy and humor can help you through pain. I've experienced that a lot in my life. It's a good remedy for depression. It's a good remedy for trauma, getting over trauma. Just laugh about it. I mean, not laugh about it per se, but laughing is healthy. Humor is healthy. So it's good, in a sense, but it can belie something beneath the surface. If a guy's joking around too much, or everything's a joke, there's pain there a lot of times, particularly with young men. Of course, we see people like Robin Williams, right, who was one of the funniest people ever, right? But it was all this outward show, and it was, beneath the surface, he had all this pain, right? So she goes on, she says, he talked about how ugly he felt. He felt so undesirable. One thing that stuck with me was him saying he was so cold at the time. He was honestly really effing hard. It was honestly really effing hard for me not to cry. I was surprised because I just felt kind of assumed he had a regular social life, a few good friends, a girl here or there, stuff like that. I think this is his sister that's saying this, if I'm not mistaken. It sounds like a girl wrote this. Really don't know, but it sounds like a girl wrote it. Which is interesting, because a lot of times women just, jump onto feminism, and they can't stand men, blah blah blah, all this crap, right? But they've got brothers, and they've got, some of them have sons, some of them have fathers. Do they care about the males in their family? A lot of times women will be feminists until they have a son, and then all of a sudden, they switch up, and they're like, oh, all of a sudden I care about men now because I have a son. Well, this is kind of solipsism. This is kind of, selfishness. They only care about it once it hits home, but they don't think about, while they're out there hating men and spreading all these feminist lies about men and masculinity and our male nature. Do they think about the families of those men who they, disrespect and berate and tell lies about? Do they think about the family of those men? Do they think about how all that affects those men and their families? You know, which is funny because if you're solipsistic, you would indirectly, if you're selfish and you're narcissistic, you would indirectly. But I guess, someone once said sin is foolish. People who commit sin are really stupid. It's not wise to commit sin because it comes around in one way or another. You know, being horrible to the opposite sex will come around and affect you one way or another. It's going to come back and get you. Karma will come back and get you one way or another. And it's like they're always surprised at the environment that they foster. If you hate men and you rail against men and you treat us like crap and you put us down, and then all of a sudden you're surprised when men don't like you, then you turn around and you're like, oh, you hate women. This is the insanity of modern feminism, is to hit somebody and then act like you're the victim, to attack somebody and then act like you're the victim. It's crazy. Of course, if you're deep into conspiracy theories, how that behavior started. Be the aggressor and then pretend you're the victim at the same time. If IYK. If you know who does that, who started that crap. Anyways, yeah, attack somebody and then act like you're the victim, and then not think of the consequences, not think that, hey, you got karma coming. On the one hand, on the other hand, if you create an environment, you foster an environment of attacking men, right? And then you wonder why men don't like you. You wonder why men don't respect you. And then you think you can just shit on people. You think you can just continue to be this princess narcissist for the rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. It's going to catch up to you in your 30s. It's going to catch up to you, in your 40s. If you develop a pattern of being a crappy person, that's going to carry on, But anyways, I'm getting off track. He talked about how ugly he felt. He felt so undesirable. This is one thing that never gets talked about. Never gets talked about. A lot of men feel unworthy physically. A lot of men feel ugly. A lot of men feel undesirable. And it just doesn't get talked about because men are just not, we're just a means to an end in Western society. We're just disposable. The disposable male. Women use us, they mock us, they put us down. Of course we're going to feel ugly. We're going to feel inadequate. I know guys who are like objectively good-looking dudes who have low self-esteem because they never get compliments. Women don't compliment them. This is how, I don't know what the word is. Insidious is not the right word. It's like animalistic. It's like planned, cultivated power, attempt to get power, right? I said this before once, that women have very little to gain by giving men compliments. Extremely little. This is why they never do it. Because if you give a man a compliment, it tells them, hey, you're acceptable to women. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to suck up to them. You don't have to try to impress them all the time, etc., etc. You don't have to do any of that because you're worthy. But that doesn't give them any power. See, it's all about power. I talk about this a lot, the subtlety of women. They're very subtle and they're very calculated. It's all about power. If you can't do anything for them, if you don't mean anything to them, they don't want to mess with you. It's about power. It's about power and control. How can I gain the upper hand? How can I get the most power? It's certainly not by giving men compliments. Not to say that not to say that women never give men compliments, but the point is that many men out here just feel unworthy. We feel ugly. We feel unwanted. I could probably count on two hands, and that's it. How many times I've had a compliment from a woman in my life, and they were all before the age of 20. I can't. Very few compliments after the age of 20. It just doesn't happen. And then women try to say, well, if we do that, you'll think you can, have sex with us, or you'll want something from us, or like, it's such a stupid argument. And this is just repeated propaganda from feminism, stuff like that. Oh, we don't ever want to give a man a compliment because we're afraid that he'll think we're flirting. Maybe. Or maybe it's just nice to have a compliment. Or maybe you are flirting. It's okay. Maybe it's okay to flirt, but you don't want to do that because it's not powerful to you. It doesn't give you the upper hand. You have to have all the you have to have the pyramid of power and make it so that men are fighting over you so you get the best option. I mean, this is kind of an animalistic, sick, tactic. But anyway, she says, I'm pretty sure it's a girl. She says, it was honestly really effing hard for me not to cry. I was surprised because I just kind of felt I just kind of assumed he had a regular social life, few good friends, a girl here or there, stuff like that. Just because a guy's got a social life doesn't mean he's not suffering from depression. Just because a guy's got a social life doesn't mean he's not hurting deep inside. Actually, a lot of the most popular people feel the most empty on the inside. I have very few friends, very, very few friends, and I'm pretty good, because I know how to cultivate my self-esteem. I know how to feel good about myself despite, all kinds of outward suffering or failures or setbacks, because I've learned how to do that. I've cultivated it over the years, how to love myself and care for myself despite anything else, despite any suffering or any, depravity, anything I'm lacking. And I know where I stand before God, and I read the Bible a lot, right? I know what the Bible says about me being a child of God, and I know that God loves me, and that helps me through. Right? But if I set my self-esteem on what other people thought of me, or what I thought I should be, or my goals, or like my successes, then I would have been sunk many years ago. Because you can't suffer through life. And that's one thing about Stoicism, come to mention it, is, if you're not able to weather the storms in life and still, stay balanced and keep self-esteem and things like that, it's very difficult to live this life, because life is full of setbacks, it's full of trauma, it's full of bad things happening, things going wrong, failures, losing. It's a major part of a life, particularly for a man. Women are the ones who come around and like, oh yeah, I'm waiting around at the finish line for the winners. Women are able to do that. Men can't. Men can't just choose and pick what they want in life. We play life on hard mode. Women play life on easy mode. So just because a guy's got a social life doesn't mean anything. That's an assumption. Oh yeah, he's got a lot of friends, so he must be doing well. Like, nah, it's not always like that. In fact, I met many really depressed guys, particularly young guys, who were very popular. A lot of people liked them, but probably that's why they like them, because they're so, if you're hurting so much on the inside, a lot of times secure people don't really do a song and dance. Secure people who have self-esteem don't really try that hard to impress other people. It's a weird phenomenon, but a lot of times people who have a lot of friends and who are really outgoing and who are really trying to impress people, and people really like them, and they really spend a lot of effort and exert a lot of energy in doing that, they're actually pretty depressed on the inside. That's why they do that. She says, I did notice he stopped going out as much a few years ago, and he said he had to drop a lot of friends in the name of self improvement, which I did see him improving himself a lot these past few years, and just kind of thought he thought like, nice, good for him. But now I'm starting to wonder if he was doing all that in the hopes of getting a girl. So yeah, it sounds like this is one thing that I've always hated about self improvement is is the fact that it tells you, oh, drop your loser friends, drop your friends who aren't going anywhere, right? Well, what if they're friends that you've had your whole life? What if you really love that friend? What if that friend, is okay with not being super successful? This is a weird, I've always felt that that part of self improvement was so weird when it says, "Oh, drop your friends who don't want to be millionaires. Drop your friends who don't want to put in the work." It's just like it teaches you to be disloyal. It teaches you to be very selfish, be very narcissistic. Okay, so your friend isn't super successful, so your friend isn't got a million goals and busting his butt like you are. So what? Is he a good friend? Does he love and care about you? Does he, is he a good guy? Does he have a good heart? Those are the things that matter. But when you say, "Oh, drop your friends who aren't successful," it's just like, what? And I've heard that a lot, and a lot of young men adhere to that, and it's a trap. It's just, well, I don't even know if it's a trap. It's not that it's a trap. It just teaches you to be a dick. It teaches you to be an asshole. Like so you're not going to be friends with somebody because they don't want to be a millionaire like you, or because they're not super successful, or they're not very driven, or they're not super ambitious. Like, who cares? So if you want to be driven and ambitious, then you do that. Then you go do that. It's not like they're going to drag you down. You just say no. It's not like, oh, I'm hanging out with my loser friends, so I guess that means I'm going to be a loser too. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever, man. Like, when I was younger and I was outwardly a lot more successful, I always had a lot of friends, and actually, the only thing that really held me back, the only thing that I worried about in that sense was the time that I spent with them, because I was like, you know what, I'm spending a lot of time with my friends. The problem there is that I could be spending this time on self improvement. Now that's a thing. That's real. Time management. If you got a lot of friends, or you got some friends who take up a lot of your time, that can be a problem. Time management. But it doesn't mean you drop your friends. You just see them less. You hang out with them less. You spend less time with them, right? And you have to figure that out. And if they're really trying to drag you down, if they're like, yeah, let's get drunk, or yeah, let's go to the bar, or yeah, let's do drugs, or yeah, let's do these things that really set us back, then yeah, you might want to drop those guys, because if that's what they're all about, and that doesn't really sound like a good friend anyways. A good friend's going to encourage you to succeed. A good friend's going to be like, yeah, man, you don't have time to hang out, cool, because I want to see you win. Let's just chat, or let's get on a video call, or let's go do this, or you know what, let's go to the gym together, or let's succeed together, or like, a good friend is going to encourage you. But if there's a friend who's drawing you down, if there's a friend who's taking up too much of your time, if there's a friend who's introducing you to the wrong things, or pressuring you into doing the wrong things, then yeah, you might need to step away. But to say like, oh yeah, I just drop a lot of friends because I really want a girlfriend, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's what a lot of advice out there is for. But let's just talk about this whole thing. Like, I think that this is something that is sad, that doesn't get talked about a lot, that we just sweep under the rug. And it's that young men are hurting. It's that young men are really in pain. Young men are really feeling a lot of pain and carrying that with them, because it's hard being a young man, particularly in this environment where we live in a gynocentric world. Women are uplifted, men are put down. I hate how men's mental health are always dismissed by so many people. I'm a girl, and whenever I mention how men's mental health deserves the same treatment as women's, I get called a pick me. I hope men who are struggling right now heal from things they don't talk about. Please remember that your mental health is just as important and valuable as us women's. I hope so. I know that feeling that touch, starvation, that lasts your whole life, that makes your skin crawl at night. There's like bugs underneath of that feeling like there must be something wrong with you because you've never been desired or pursued or complimented. You feel worthless and impossible to want. That feeling of never having a person to cry next to, not knowing what a hug feels like if it lasts longer than 2 seconds. Your hands constantly feel empty, like they should be holding something. The shivers down the spine when you think about it. Witnessing everyone you grow up around get that love you need in spite of all their flaws, knowing that you deserve the same and never being allowed to have it. That feeling of trying to fall asleep in spite of your brain desperately asking the question of why. I'm where that man was, and I feel like I'll never escape it, but I have to stay on this earth because of people like the living brother. I have to stay here for my sister and my mother, but God, is it ever pure agony? Wow, what a comment right there. What a comment. Yeah, man, this is what men are going through, and we just get swept under the rug. We just get marginalized, dismissed, mocked, laughed at. It's jacked up. It's jacked up, and women just have an abundance. Women have such an abundance that it annoys them when they get attention. They don't want compliments from men because it's creepy. That's how much of an abundance women have. Imagine that. You got these young men who are starved, who go their whole life and never get a compliment from a woman. And you got women out here who are calling men creepy for giving them a compliment. How insane is that? And nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody's like, you know what? Men aren't okay. We're not doing good out here. We're suffering. We're marginalized. We're put down. It's sad. It's really sad. It's sad. And we deserve it. Men deserve it. Men deserve mental health. Men deserve love. Men deserve a girlfriend. Men deserve sex. Men deserve all the things that women take for granted. We do. We just do. We deserve it. Men are not monsters. We're not aggressors. We're not evil by nature. We're not haters. We're good people. You know, it's just sad how sick our gynocentric society is, and how we throw men under the bus. We treat our men like crap. We treat our men like they're disposable, like they don't mean anything, like they don't matter, like they're a means to an end. And we're just a joke. I'm around that age, and I've always struggled with romance. Sometimes that inability to have someone is like a feeling, is like a yawning chasm inside, makes me feel worthless and like a failure. I know the thing that pulls me through is my friends. I'm not worthless in their eyes. They still love me. But see, that's the thing, is that, yeah, you might be able to have friends. You might be able to have distractions. You might be able to channel your pain or your loneliness into something else. But it's always there, because nothing will ever take the place of a woman's touch. Nothing will ever take the place of real intimacy, real sex, real relationships. I'm lucky enough that I've had a lot of those in my life. I'm lucky enough that I know what that feels like. Maybe I haven't had the best women, you know. But I'm lucky enough to have experienced that, to know what that feels like to some degree. Sorry about that, guys. Someone was at my window. Someone was walking by my window. Thought they were looking in on me. But yeah, I know what that, I know what that feels like to some degree. And you can't, there's nothing that duplicates it. There's nothing that compares to it. It's a longing deep within all people, I believe, men and women. But I think it's harder for men because men are more, we're just in scarcity more. We have more scarcity, and women have such abundance that it doesn't mean much to them. It doesn't mean as much because even if you're just sleeping around, even sex really is a form of intimacy. You don't have to have a relationship necessarily to get intimacy. Sex is a kind of intimacy, and I believe it's good for the soul. I believe we're supposed to have it. Are we supposed to have it in the type of, you know, from multiple partners? That's debatable. I don't think so necessarily. I think we should have it from one person. People argue maybe that gets boring, yada yada, but we're supposed to have it, whether it's from multiple partners or one partner, whatever. We're supposed to have it, and when men don't have it, it's disheartening. It's sad. It makes you lonely. It's like you have this big hole in your heart. You have this big hole in your soul that nothing can fill it but a woman's touch. And if you don't get that, you're just miserable. It's sad. It's so sad. And the other thing is, we live in such a hyperized world, hypersexual world, that when you're lonely and you feel alone and then you go look at porn, or like you see everybody around you enjoying life and having boyfriends and girlfriends, having relationships, but you can't get that, that's horrible. It's like everybody around you is, enjoying this feast, but you can't get any of it. It sucks. It's the worst thing ever. I'm lucky enough to have had some of it. It might not have been in the way that I wanted, with the caliber and quality of women that I wanted, but I've had a lot more than some men. I've had a lot less than many men as well, but I've had a lot more than many men. And it's great. Honestly, it's great to have it, even if it's with a subpar woman, or a woman that I've really never had the type of caliber quality of woman that I always wanted. But I was with women that were close. I wouldn't say, I don't know if close enough is the right term, but women who weren't terrible, women who weren't bad. It was good enough to where, like, I didn't feel bad about myself doing it. It was good enough to where, dating and intimacy and sex with those type of women was good enough to where I was like, yeah, this is pretty bomb. This is pretty good. Even though this woman has a lot of flaws and there's a lot about her that kind of turns me off and she's not up to quality, whatever, it's good enough. I'm not like out here sleeping with bog monsters. I'm not out here sleeping with ugly women who I don't have no attraction to. Some men do that, and it's sad because they're so desperate. And women will be disgusted by that. Oh, these men are so desperate. Oh, yeah, they're all losers. Da 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 da. It's not their fault. It's not our fault. What do we do? I mean, like, we're just born the wrong gender. Even ugly women get sex. Even women who aren't that desirable get a lot more options than the average man. There are women who are less attractive, from a 1-to-1 scale. There are women who are less attractive than men who are their opposite counterpart in looks. Or I should say, they're less attractive than some men. Than some men are attractive to women. And they get a lot more attention than these men get from the opposite sex. I probably butchered that statement, but I think you understand what I'm saying. How sad is that? How fucked up is that? How messed up is that? This is why you got women out here who are like not that attractive, not good looking, not that, or I should say, not that good looking. They're all right, but they really think they're like 10s. It's delusion, because it's not, it's not a universal reality. And then they wonder, well, why are men so depressed? Because we don't have what you have. Our lives aren't easy like yours are. It's that simple. It really is that simple. It's messed up, man. Um, my advice to all the bros out there struggling with this: fill your life with joy, get a job you like, or is at least not bad. And if you can't get either of those, always be applying and on the lookout for something better. You deserve it. Yeah, I mean, a job isn't necessarily going to take away your pain. A job isn't going to take away your loneliness. But this is not bad advice. I give this type of advice on my channel a lot. Take up your time with something. Find a hobby. Fill your time with something. Distract yourself if you can. It only goes so far, but it's better than just wallowing in your pity. It's better than focusing on your problems or focusing on your loneliness. No, you got to distract yourself. You got to do something else. You got to live your life. You got to stay alive. You can't quit. You can't just focus on your problems, because that gets you nowhere. Do something positive, work out, or go outside and talk to women, attack your pain, attack your loneliness. You're lonely, okay, counteract that by going and talking to women. Right? What's the worst they can do? Reject you, or maybe say you harass them or something? Well, don't harass them. Be polite. Talk to women who want to talk to you. If they don't want to talk to you, get out of there. Go up to 10 women a day and say, hey, excuse me, I'd like to talk to you. Would you like to have a conversation? And just talk to them. And then try to flirt or try to get a girl. Try. I'm not saying it's going to work. If you're not a good looking dude, you're not desirable, but this is the problem. But it's better to at least attack your problem than focusing on it. Don't feed your problem by giving it attention, right? But it only goes so far, right? You're still going to be lonely at the end of the day if you don't get what you need. And I believe intimacy and sex and relationships are a biological need, not a want, but a need. I believe it. And a job, I mean, okay, sure, a job will distract you because it'll take up your time, but yeah, that's just like trade in your misery for slavery. It's just like, I'm not saying jobs are, because we all got to make money, but don't make yourself more depressed by working some job because you're trying to distract yourself from your loneliness. No, there's a million things to do. Write poetry, create a song, compliment people, tell your family you love them, do arts and crafts for your family, learn how to paint, read. I mean, there's a million things to do, man. Make friends who make you happy. Always go to places where people light up when they see you and you're going the right way. We're going to make it, bros. Yeah, I mean, that's good advice. Try to have a good support system. Try to have people who really genuinely care about you, not these ambitious Tate bros, who are out here trying to make $1 million and drive Bugattis and Lamborghinis. Like, you don't need those kind of friends. Or you don't need friends who are into drugs or negative people and shit like that. But yeah, find some friends who will help you through, and find some people to love and support you. If you can do that, it's not bad advice. I would say find God, find a purpose in life. I think it's harder for people who, they really thought their purpose was to just have a family, and when that didn't work out, because we're going to be seeing that a lot more in today's day and age. We really are. People who, aren't having families, right? It's just going to be more and more common because we live in this downgraded, degenerate culture. More and more common. But yeah, just distract yourself. That's good advice. But anyways, guys, I could talk about this for another hour, but I got stuff to do, and it's sad. It really is sad. It's sad that men go through this, and it's sad that women, I don't know what to say. I mean, I guess it's their nature, to be choosy and stuff like that, but they don't like nice guys. They don't like weak men. They don't like the average guy, which is sad. I mean, hypergamy really screws men. It really fucks us up, It's really sad. And then you couple that with how degenerate this culture is and how selfish this culture is and how greedy and all about money this culture is. And you got a lot of really disenfranchised men. You really do. You got a lot of sad men who are really hurting, lonely, want love, want a family, want to just be faithful to one woman. A lot of good men out there who are just really not succeeding in this department, and it's really sad. But I don't think you're gonna. I don't think women are gonna take mercy on. That's not how it works. Taking mercy on men is a turnoff. It's not what women want. It's not how. It's not how they operate. It's not what they like. Which is sad. I don't know why God made them that way. I don't know. Maybe it's nature, whatever you want to call it, man. But it ain't. It ain't really righteous in my view. It's not really human. It's more animalistic. I've always said that. But they like what they like. I don't know. They're turned on by ruthless men. They're turned on by bad boys. They're turned on by success and all these other things. They're just materialistic and vapid. I forget this guy's name. Is his name not? I think it's John something. He was on Fresh and Fit. I think it's Johnny Boba or John Boba, something like that. I don't know his name, but I think his name's John something. But anyways, he has this clip where he's talking to these young women and he's like, there's guys out here who will love you for your faults and you're poor and you work at a restaurant, you're a server. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to love you. But are women that way? No. Why? Because you're of the devil. I always like that quote. If you know, you know. But I don't know if that's 100% true. But I believe God made men and women. But I think that in the fall, women were distorted. I really do. I think that they, you know, it's just rational. It's just logical. It's just observable. It's just obvious. Women are just calculating creatures. They're just calculating creatures. They're very, very pragmatic when it comes to intimacy and love and sex. They want a man who's a winner. They want a man who's strong. They want a man who is they don't want a nice guy. And women always, oh no, that's not true. And you're just a weirdo. You're just one of these red pill incels. Like, but the proof is in the pudding, man. If it were different, I just read a statistic the other day that most people now are meeting online. Most people are meeting online. So if people are meeting online, then the truth is that women are shallow and materialistic, because what do you do online? You post your pictures and you post what you do for work, and you post how much money you make, and you brag about and you show off your stuff, your outward stuff. So if most people are meeting online and they're not meeting in person, how's she going to get to know your personality? Yeah, she meets you online and then she gets to know your personality, but what's the attraction first going to be? Is it going to be your personality, or is it going to be your looks, money, and status? It's your looks, money, and status. These are the top three. These are the big three that women are all into. It's not personality. It's not your heart. It's not your character. That's in the movies. I grew up in the 90s watching movies where, like, the good guy finally wins in the end. The good guy actually gets the girl in the end because she realizes that he's actually a honest guy, and he's got a good heart, and he really genuinely cares about her. Like, that's just Hollywood bullshit. In reality, it's looks, money, status. What do you think these women are having sex with? What do you think they're out here chasing? Looks, money, status. So if it's all online, most people are meeting online, then why are good guys getting the short end of the stick? Why are they getting marginalized? Because they can't show their quality heart on through the internet. I mean, sure that they can write up a nice profile. I really like cats and I take care of my mother and I'm a really good person. That doesn't do anything. No, it's I make 100,000 a year. I'm 6'8". I'm buff. Here's my pics. I got all these cool clothes. I'm a cool car. I'm a successful dude. That's the guy the girls want. So there you go. It's just human nature. It's female nature. I don't know why they're like that. But anyway, and you get marginalized as a man. You get thrown under the bus. You really do. It's very sad. But I'm going to end it there, guys. Appreciate you listening. Jay Lee. And I hope things change, man. I hope things change. I hope that people would have a better heart. But it's just, I don't know if it's the way of the world. I really don't know if it's that way. I grew up being an idealist. I talk about this sometimes. I grew up being an idealist. I really was an idealist. I really believed in true love. I believed that the world was good. I believed that people had good hearts. It's really not quite like that in real life. Yes, there's good people in the world. Yes, there's goodness in the world. Yes, I believe there's true love. Yes, I believe that people do fall in love, with each other's hearts and things like that. I do believe those things happen, but I don't think it's necessarily the norm. I think a lot of it is really survival. I think a lot of it is really pragmatism. I think a lot of it is really just this works because of the finances, or this works because of this thing, not because it was this storybook romance. It's not real life. You can't just watch movies forever and think that that's real life. At some point, you got to grow up, and that's your red pill moment. That's your red pill transformation. That's your red pill experience. Is realizing that life is hard, man. It's jacked up out here. You got to bring home the bacon or else. And this is why I don't blame guys who are single. I don't blame guys who, I understand it, because it's not appealing to go chase some woman and throw money at her so she'll love you. It's not appealing to exchange your hard-earned resources for love. No, it's you love me and you work with me. I'm not a big fan of 50 Cent. I grew up listening to hip hop. I grew up listening to rap. I'm not a big fan of him. But he does have this one song. I think it's called 21 Questions. That's a good song. I like that song. Because listen to the hook on that song. He's like, would you love me if I was on the bus? Would you love me if I was down and out? Would you still love me? Or whatever, right? Would you still love me if I didn't have anything? Would you still love me if I was on the bus? Would you still love me if I was down and out? And that's where true love is tested. A woman's love is tested when the man has nothing. A man's love is tested when the woman, a woman, I messed that up. A woman's love is tested when a man has nothing. A man's love is tested when he has everything. Why is that? Because when a man has everything, a whole bunch of other women want him. When he has nothing, no other women want him. Think about that. That's the truth. If you can find a woman who loves you when you're down and out, when you got nothing, when you're on the bus, when you're a loser, that's probably true love. But who finds that? You know what I mean? Who really finds that? Anyways, I'm going to end it there. Appreciate you guys listening. Jay Lee, Northwest Podcast. Peace.